Well, folks, this is that chapter that bridges the gap between arcs, and I, for one, am impressed and excited to see what the future holds.
One Piece Chapter 322, Puffing Tom.
Man. Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the awesome and watery and train-filled on the water tale of One Piece. Our last chapter saw us with, for the most part, the arc, the Davy back arc, or the long ring, long land arc, whatever you want to call it, kind of winding down. And everybody, narrowly being able to escape Admiral Aokiji, really only because he decided that Luffy wasn't worth killing at the time, that he owed him one for taking out Crocodile. So that's how things left off, and that's where things pick up over here. We wind up finding out that actually, just to kind of help Robin and Luffy, just come back to it and everything like that, they wound up staying there anchored at long, the long ring, long land, that island for 3 or 4 days. Now they're a few days out to sea, and Luffy, of course, is up and around, jumping around, and he does this funny thing where he's like, "Look at it's me, Ice Luffy or Frozen Luffy," and they're like, "Dude, you were almost dead. You shouldn't have, you shouldn't be doing that." And he's just like, "Yeah, but it was a good impersonation, wasn't it?" And then we go and we see Robin's okay as well. Sanji, of course, has fallen at her feet, and he asks her if she wants anything to eat. She has some coffee from him and this and that. So, nonetheless, we know that they're from what Aokiji said in the last chapter. We know that they're headed toward Water 7. And as they're going in their, in their boat, and they're just kind of having the good time like they normally do on the sea. We wind up getting some fun stuff too between Zoro and Sanji. Sanji's always calling Zoro Mosshead, right? And Zoro, just kind of tells him to shut up and calls him an idiot cook and everything else. But he winds up he started calling him Dart or Dartboard, and he's like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "That curly Q eyebrow looks like a like a dartboard," right? So I just thought that was a funny one that they stuck in there. Ultimately, this is one of those bridge chapters that kind of bridges the action from the last chapter to what's going to happen in the next chapter. Now we wind up seeing there's this frog that's like doing this funny kind of side paddle in the water, and Luffy wants to go after it. He wants to go after it to catch it and eat it. And the thing you see is all like cut and scarred up, it looks like, and everything. And as they go and they're going after this thing, they wind up hitting this one point. First of all, they start hearing this sound, and a ding, 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 ding. That's how I, think it would sound. That's what it says in there too, the dings. But and then they actually start going and running up, Luffy's like, "We're gonna run aground." He sees that they're gonna go and run up aground to something. He says, "We gotta turn the ship 180 degrees." Right as they're about in the action of doing all that, all of a sudden, man, I'm in the middle of the sea now, right, mind you too. And then Nami also wound up spying a lighthouse from the spyglass or wherever, the binoculars in the distance there, but it's not where they're supposed to go. It's not where the log pose is pointing. But anyway, all of a sudden, just a freaking train comes rushing by, and that's the sound it makes, at least I would hear when the trains go by me. You hear the ding, 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 ding of the crossing, and then you just hear as it's going over the tracks. This thing comes flying by them. They just narrowly escape, and it's cool too. You've seen the other thing I wanted to mention too, and I've been meaning to bring this up for a while, is that now, like 6-7 years into Oda's One Piece drawing career here, the art has gotten better. I mean, you can see it's just light worlds ahead of where it was, light years ahead, I guess you would say, of where it was, back in 200, 300, even 100 chapters ago. So he's definitely progressing, and it's very cool. And some of that is that could be seen in this one. He draws this great train coming across the water, and then shots of all of the Straw Hats, and just kind of like, with and simulating with the lines, like the kind of wind that happens as this thing is going by, right, narrowly, missing, hitting them and destroying their ship. Winds up nailing the frog. Just the frog goes flying, So anyway, after this train passes, they go to the lighthouse, and as they approach the lighthouse, we wind up meeting these 3 figures that I guess man the lighthouse, the train station, the switching station. We got Chimney. We've got, was it Gonbe? Yeah, Gonbe, who's the little animal over here. And then we've got Kokoro, which is the station master of Shift Station. So we find out a little bit over here. This Shift Station, first of all, we find out that it wasn't a steamboat or anything like that. It was a train, and what it does is it actually uses steam power like a train to make these paddles go really fast so it can actually, the wheels turn, I'm assuming there's paddles attached to it. And there's actually tracks too, and that's what Luffy and them were about to run aground on. The tracks are just below the surface over there. And it takes, they deliver mail and they take people. Every day it runs the same loop around, I guess, a number of different islands. So I don't know if... We find out that Water 7's where it came from, and that's where their log pose is pointing to, and that's obviously, we also find out some good things about Water 7, which I'll get to in a second, but we find out that this goes to all these different islands, and one of them's like Gourmet Land, or Gourmet City, whatever, and it's kind of neat to go and see, so I don't know if these are all part of Water 7, if it's like a chain of islands, or what, you know, and hope that it'll be explained. But nonetheless, though, we do find out a little bit of information about Water 7. Water 7 itself, or this Water City or whatever, it has the best shipwrights in the world. And the reason it has the best shipwrights in the world is because that's where the Navy, you know, they commission ships to be built there. So that's where all the best shipwrights are in the world. You know, obviously that's where the business is at and whatnot. So it's really cool because we know that obviously the Straw Hats are looking for a carpenter, for a shipwright. And I'm really kind of hoping that this is also going to lead into maybe that next member of the crew. I mean, we haven't had a member join since Nico Robin, which was the end of Alabasta. And, you know, what is that, chapter 216, 17, somewhere in that neighborhood. So, you know, it's been a full 100 chapters now without a member joining. And it's not like we have to keep bringing new people onto the crew, but there's part of that magic that you have is really just kind of that camaraderie that's being built amongst these characters and just the interweaving plots and backgrounds and stories and stuff like that. So I'm definitely excited to go to Water 7, and I think so is Luffy, because we get over here once he gets all the information about it. You know, he's like, all right, it's decided, we're going, and we'll find a carpenter to join our crew. So I thought that was kind of neat. And then, of course, the next chapter is called The City of Water, Water 7. So I'm assuming that this ends up our arc over here for Long Ring, Long Land. And to tell you the truth, I didn't find it to be bad at all. Really, the first chapter or two of it, I think I was taking it a little bit too seriously. And, you know, and then when I just kind of loosened up and just realized that, hey, listen, man, there's some goofy, sort of funnier things in here. Some of the stuff with the Foxy events and everything like that were actually very cool. And some of it was just plain funny, you know. And ultimately, in the end, I think there was a lot of neat things that happened over there. I like to see the, you know, of course, the camaraderie that was built even for a short period of time between Zoro and Sanji. We found out just a little bit about how dangerous, at least to the Navy, that, you know, that Robin is. We were introduced and saw the powers of, for a few chapters, of this Admiral Aokiji. That's just, I mean, he's next level, you know, at least compared to where, you know, the Straw Hats are right now. But I like, too, that he was like, hey, you know what, even though you're just kind of a ragtag group of, you know, misfits, you know, you guys can become this real, you know, you're not that powerful now, but you guys can become this real force to be reckoned with, even though you're a small crew and everything. And I thought that was neat to see, because obviously you've got guys with such great potential. You've got Sanji, you've got Zoro, you've got Chopper, you know, Robin, obviously we know that her powers are just completely beastly. I mean, because she has a $79 million bounty from when she was 8 years old, you know, from when she was, you know, just coming out of kindergarten. And, I mean, just the whole crew themselves. I mean, and you can't forget about people like Usopp and Nami. A lot of people like to put them down because they're not as formidable fighting-wise. But I think that's very short-sighted, and I think those people are the ones that only read this for the action and for you know, the fights and things like that. And realistically, if you read the whole story as a component and as a whole, Luffy and Zoro couldn't find their way out of a fucking wet paper bag if it wasn't for Nami navigating, right? The ship would have been sunk 10 times over if it wasn't for Usopp and half the shit that he's done to patch it up and all those type of things, you know? And then Chopper, obviously he has a lot of inner strength, but he also has a lot of inner turmoil and everything like that, and I think he's starting to come into his own a little bit. But Chopper's one of those sleeping giants too, where he really lends a hand, obviously being a doctor on the ship, and being useful in that sense, but then him being able to transform and do the different things that he can do, it's fucking awesome, you know? So I think it's a really cool ragtag group of people, man. It really just, it's a neat crew. And from all the different comics that I read and everything else, I don't think I ever read 300 issues of anything, you know, total, because there was no online scans that I could read when I was younger. So if you wanted to go back and read back issues, you either had to pony up the money for it, and a lot of them were collectible and very expensive, or you had to get them in trade paperbacks and things like that, which were not as expensive as buying the collectible ones, but it still cost a lot of money. You know, when you're a teenager and they want 20 or 30 bucks for a trade paperback that's got like 12 or 14 issues of the Avengers or Spider-Man or whatever it is. So I wasn't privy to going back and being able to ever really start something from the beginning, you know, with the X-Men or anything like that. I kind of had to pick it up to where I could afford it, you know, and usually you try to pick it up at where a new writer, new artist picked up, maybe a new story arc, and then you would go from there. So this for me is really cool, being able to kind of take this journey from its inception all the way on through to, you know, obviously once I become current, and then all the way through to its end. It's really a neat thing, man. I can't tell you how much I enjoy it. So nonetheless, so I guess my chapter question for you, brothers and sisters, is going to be, give me your thoughts on this past arc. What do you think some of the high points were? What do you think some of the low points were? I just really like to know your thoughts on what some of your favorite parts of this arc were. You know, and don't get into all the bashing about how it's useless and everything else, because, you know, I've already gone over that with you. I don't think it's useless, and I thought it was a nice bridge to get into the next major arc, and I also thought there were some great things that happened during it as well. So, you know, if you're going to go and bring all that type of stuff, bring it somewhere else. I just want to know, like I said, what some of your favorite, maybe a favorite character that was introduced, maybe a favorite fight. So, you know, just some of the high points in your opinion, you know, and what you took from this arc. So leave your answer to that question in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching all of you in the next Fun Nation.
If you'd like to see more drawings like these, remember to follow me over on the Twitter and Facebook and even my other channel.